The pandemic has created a shopping or a consumption behavior shift, which is buying things online. And this is more, and it made buying things online acceptable for Western consumers and across all age groups. Previously, it was very predominantly millennials and Gen Z, but everyone participated in things, buying things online and home delivery. So whether it is shopping online or it is getting some type of home delivery service, your food, your flowers, things that they did not previously do. So it created a lot of a new set of economy around home delivery, around sort of online shopping. What the brands have not have not addressed, we're having a hard time addressing, is the fact that they caught on to this trend and there were no playbooks in place that with proven results that they could implement until many years after the pandemic is over. So they're still implementing some of the pandemic playbooks, even though a lot of the consumers have returned back to retail. And they're
Right.
having, because they have invested heavily into online infrastructure. So now they are stuck with, do I stop this investment? Or what do I do with this investment? How do we address this? We've already gone so far down this road. So what do we do? I think a lot of the brands are missing the opportunities of a correct D2C, direct to consumer strategy. I think that is what is currently happening to many brands.
Welcome back to another exclusive episode on the Passionate Pioneer podcast with my special guest today, Yuki B. Hi, Yuki.
Hello.
You know me, I'm Beth. I am the Passionate Pioneer, your spiritual awakening and joy specialist, and of course, the leader of the Passionista global movement. And my guest today is the definition of a passionate pioneer. She is a proven leader who first made her mark by moving to China, leading a 500-person team and breaking the bamboo ceiling for Asian American executives. She is perhaps best known for an historic 2014 underdog victory, we like that, where her local agency beat global holding giants for a major luxury account. Today, she is the founder of Helios Worldwide, pioneering, we also like that word, the revolutionary consumer ecosystem investing model, also known as CEI, which is a new way for luxury and heritage brands to succeed in the digital age. She also happens to be a runner who logs 5 miles every single day, demonstrating the intense discipline that drives her business philosophy. So please welcome again the founder of Helios Worldwide, Yuki B. So let's
Thank you for
dive.
having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So let's dive into your story, um, because you're originally from Canada. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Toronto, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. I love Toronto. I've many friends in Toronto. But anyway, you moved to China for work. And what was the biggest culture shock that you faced? Specifically in the boardroom, the difference.
I think when I worked in China, which was the early 2010s, that was a very different time. That was when a lot of businesses, the economy was doing great. There were a lot of growth. A lot of companies have flooded to China to find their growth and opportunity. I think it was the best time. We had many of the industries were flourishing and the audiences, the population were very optimistic. And I got to see sort of that great, the roaring early 2010s of the Chinese economy.
Right.
There were a lot of differences. When I first moved there, I think the biggest shocker was how vocal and how open the Chinese boardroom was compared to Canada.
Oh,
And it was, you could say, you could just voice your opinions. No ideas were bad ideas. And people experimented and they were very innovative. They were encouraged to try new things, to bring in new talents. So, very similar to what I think is currently happening or has been happening to the Middle East for the past couple of years. But that was a really big shock for me. I originally thought they would be quite conservative compared to some of the North Asian cultures like South Korea, like Japan. But China was very different. They were merit driven back then, and they were very innovative. So I did enjoy that environment when I first moved there.
that's really surprising, isn't it? I'm really shocked to hear that too, because I would have thought that, Canadian boardrooms would be more open and, you know, and more with the flow, basically, because that's the Canadian way, isn't it, really? Than China, which I think would be quite more conservative.
Yeah.
But it was the
Yeah.
opposite.
It was the opposite. It was shocking.
Yeah, that is shocking. Um, so obviously that's a big shock. So how did that feel as a female, especially?
I think that made me feel very motivated. My opinions were valued. My I was given opportunities to try new things, and I found a lot of satisfaction with my work, which I previously were not getting in when I was working in Canada, hence why I left Canada. I developed a new sense of vocational sense of my work beyond just a paycheck. And that was really interesting. And I think that maybe my experience is not truly representative of the entire work environment in China. I work in marketing advertising, which is very avant-garde. We were rewarded for having ideas that made the public and made the brands uncomfortable. So it was really our job to push the boundaries. Hence why I think it was more liberal in our work environment versus I think in Canada or back then in North America, there were a lot of restrictions and people were concerned about voicing their opinions. So I think that was the biggest difference. I can't speak for other industries. I'm sure
Right.
that there were a lot of restrictions, but I think for advertising marketing, it was the golden times.
Okay, well, yeah, advertising and marketing you do push the boundaries and you have to make people feel uncomfortable. That's the whole reason for marketing, right? To get people to notice you
Yes,
in an industry that's absolutely saturated with advertising, right?
yes, yes.
How do you stand out? And that's good that you were given those opportunities to think outside the box and to be creative and innovative.
I was really appreciative. I think that was something that I value the most. That the country at that time and the industry gave me opportunities that otherwise were not attainable and gave me experience that otherwise would take many, many years and maybe many decades for me to gather if I were to stay in Canada.
Right, right. So in 2014, so you were there in the early 2010s, yes? So in 2014, you were still in China, yes?
Yes.
Okay, because you had that historic win where your local agency beat out global holding companies for a luxury account. So um, how did you do that? What was that? Tell us about that.
I think that was something that is the primary or a prime example of how the country or the entire industry was behaving back then. The decisions were made based on results, and the decisions were made uh, based on beliefs or leaps of faith, and they were not so much looking for a brand name, which was dominating back in the early 20 or mid 2010s. The major holding group agencies dominated the entire space. And it was the we pitched against Goliath, and we won because we were innovative, we were nimble, and we approached their business problems with a very unique hybrid set of strategy. We understood the brand because the brand was an international luxury brand. And we also understood the local audiences. So bridging that or marrying those together was something that we were experts in. And the brands and the company took a leap of faith and went with us. And I truly appreciate the courage that they had. And it was all about courage in China. So many brands took risks, calculated risks, and we were one of those calculated risks, and it paid out. We proved ourselves. We were really good, and we together we grew multiple times in that country.
So yeah, again, that's surprising, isn't it? Really, that the China and the China compared to the Western world, which is England, Europe, America, Canada. Um, what was China doing that's so different? Because for me, it seems that maybe the US wasn't doing that. It was the US is still trying to maybe catch up with China. What were they doing back then?
Yeah.
That's they're still doing now. What do you think?
I think China was trying to find a way to compete on the global stage back then, and still is. And they don't have they did not have, hundreds of years to build up their pedigree in modern society and modern economy. So what they were looking for is, and they skipped many generations, and maybe that was a really good thing back then. They did not have any baggage. They skipped the generations and moved directly into a very open-minded group of consumers that accepted a lot of new things. So we were not fighting against traditional forces from a marketer's perspective. They were very open. They shopped online, which was shocking. And they they bought things that they couldn't see or touch. And they bought them in mass quantities. So it was, and they were really easily influenced as a group of people because the consumers were willing to try these things that they did not previously have. So I think it was at a time where we were able to, it was a blank canvas, and we were able to, write or draw on the canvas in ways that otherwise wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I think, and again, I'm just fascinated by that. Just think that, America and Canada would be the leaders in innovative ideas to bringing those to the table. But in fact, it's China. And you're absolutely right. I mean, they are the leaders in technology, and the Chinese women I speak to. I do speak to some Chinese women in China,
Yeah.
and they are, they are all about technology. It's
Yeah.
crazy. They just they soak it up. They can't think of anything else. We don't have cash. What do you mean cash? We do everything online with our phones,
Yes.
right? And
Yep.
so really we are a little bit behind. Really. I mean, Europe even more so. But we're
Yes.
still trying to break the old traditions over here. Some of them good, some of them not so good. But I do think I think they are the new generation there, especially in the year 2000s, have really had the opportunity to be inventive and innovative, and I think that's you know what you're saying is that they don't have a model They could look at the US, they could look at the Western world and go, well, they've been doing that. That's not working for them.
Correct. Yeah.
It's limited, isn't it? Because,
Yes.
like you said, it's the rules and the regulations. It's kind of stifling the innovation,
Yes, a little bit. Yeah.
right? And I think
Yes.
that what you found in China is that those limitations were taken away
Yes, at that time.
at that time. Do you think it's different now?
It is very different. It
Okay.
is it is very different. I think the what motivated myself to move back to the US was precisely what we observed in the market, myself and a lot of my industry friends. What we observed was a closing in of the rules and a lot of regulations, a lot of oversight, and sort of that disappearing free enterprise mentality. So we, but I think what I gathered while the many years I spent working in China, what I gathered, those insights, those innovation, those passion, those mentality, and especially the ways of working and the ways how they cultivated those innovations are so applicable and is so needed in US, in UK, in Canada, where my home is, and I wanted to bring those here.
Yeah.
And so we found that a lot of brands, a lot of companies really benefited from that learning and implementing those processes and those school of thoughts. And we have seen, and we continue to see that TikTok Shop is a prime example. Social commerce is prime example.
Yeah.
It's something that is very new in Western world, but China pioneered it, and they excel in that in social commerce. They've got it down to a science. It's no longer how you tell the story, and we are able to bring those learning and apply it with a Western lens and for the brands that we work with.
I totally agree, and I think you can see that in lots of industries. It's the old systems are, for want of a better word, broken. I mean, they're just limiting, aren't they? We've been kept in a box for too long, and now we're breaking out of the box, right?
Yes.
And I love that, and I think that maybe so you were in exactly the right place with the innovations and the ability to speak your mind and become creative, and that's what you've brought back to the US. Um, but you said that in China maybe the things shifted. Was that
Yes.
during maybe the pandemic? Was that the big shift that happened in China with the rules and regular, or
I
did it
left
happen before?
It was happening before. There
Okay.
were many indicators that the environment was changing, and because because we work, I myself, I work in marketing. I'm hypersensitive to geopolitical shifts. I'm hypersensitive to consumer factors that really impact the consumer and really impact the economy. So I sensed it before, but really the world has seen that shift more evidently during the pandemic and during and post the pandemic. Yes, but I left pre-pandemic.
Right. But you saw the changes before then. It's probably they probably put even more rules in
Absolutely.
for the
Yes.
pandemic as everybody did. Um, what so let's with the pandemic, let's just touch on that 1 second because I know that affected marketing hugely
Yes.
because everything went online.
Yes.
Um, what's one specific consumer habit from that time that most brands are still failing to address, in your opinion?
I think brands have a delay reaction. So brands react like dinosaurs, and something happens, something catches their tail, and it takes years for that feeling to reach their brain and for them to react. So
That's a great
I,
analogy.
I think that's what is currently happening. The pandemic has created a shopping or a consumption behavior shift, which is buying things online. And this is more, and it made buying things online acceptable for Western consumers and across all age groups. Previously, it was very predominantly millennials and Gen Z, but everyone participated in things, buying things online and home delivery. So whether it is shopping online or it is getting some type of home delivery service, your food, your flowers, things that they did not previously do. So it created a lot of a new set of economy around home delivery, around sort of online shopping. What the brands have not addressed, we're having a hard time addressing, is the fact that they caught on to this trend and there were no playbooks in place that with proven results that they could implement until many years after the pandemic is over. So they're still implementing some of the pandemic playbooks, even though a lot of the consumers have returned back to retail. And they're
Mm.
having, because they have invested heavily into online infrastructure. So now they are stuck with, do I stop this investment? Or what do I do with this investment? How do we address this? We've already gone so far down this road. So what do we do? I think a lot of the brands are missing the opportunities of a correct D2C, direct to consumer strategy. I think that is what is currently happening to many brands. And that gave way to a whole bunch of new startups that started during the pandemic that really only focus on direct to consumer, so D2C, that gave a lot of opportunities to those brands. And those brands are reverse challenging these traditional brands into their own space, which is their own retail space. And we see this across all, regardless of size of the company. So we see that, Nike made a classic mistake post-pandemic by going all in onto e-commerce, and they regretted letting go of a lot of their retail contracts and retail space. Now, with the new CEO and reversing back to some of their traditional playgrounds, battlegrounds, they have to get themselves back into the traditional retail spaces. But a lot of those retail spaces have been occupied by their competitors.
Right. So that is a huge dilemma, isn't it, for these legacy brands or these these high level brands that are I've got bricks and mortar
Yeah.
and e-commerce. Which one which one do you see in the future? This isn't one of my questions actually. This is just something I've just thought about. So which one in your opinion do you see we're going in the future? Which one is the leader here in the future?
I think retail we are moving into a consumer experience generation or era with offline retail. Brands needs to readjust their expectations in terms of how much revenue they're going to generate and how much profit they're going to generate from offline retail. Because the consumers, they should treat offline retail as a brand induction or a brand introduction or a brand experience center versus a revenue driving channel. And
Right.
they should, and they will see more revenues coming from their online businesses because once the consumers have experienced your brand, they're more likely to repurchase online. They're more likely to subscribe to the brand. They're more likely to trust the brand because that's where you build the trust offline. And you need to convert them onto online. And I think the battle between brand owned online stores versus resellers are going to really play out in the next few years where a lot of the online resellers are benefiting today, but the brands are trying to pull back and trying to take more control of their online business.
Well, of course, we've got artificial intelligence now. We've also got the um what's it from the movies? You can actually put the goggles on and you can go
Oh yes, AR,
the,
augmented reality.
that's
Yeah.
it. So, really, it is you're talking about the whole experience, aren't you? With the shopping. And
Yes.
you can probably get that with putting the goggles on and going in and having a bigger experience. And I think that's what, consumers just want more and more. We are
Yes.
greedy. We want more and more. We don't just want the shop and online now. Now we want more things. And I think
Yes.
the next step maybe is is having these virtual reality where you can go and have an experience. You can go and try different things, different avatars, different clothes. And I think it's very exciting. I know lots of people are scared about all of this. I'm not. I'm excited about it. 'Cause, I mean, this is the future that we're moving
Yes.
into. What? So even though they're moving into sort of, they've still got their foot into the bricks and mortar. What do you see with the new technology? How are we going to move forward with our shopping experiences, and how are brands going to market that?
I think that let's take US market, for example.
Yeah.
I think US is what I'm observing is that the consumers are shifting rapidly with the introduction to AI. Since AI has been rolled out, people have across all age groups have been using AI in a unprecedented way or unexpected way from these AI giants. I think it's more than just retrieving information. It allows the consumers to get smarter, and it makes marketers' job harder. It definitely makes our jobs harder because it is harder to influence them. AI is slightly unbiased versus having a real influencer, for example, or traditional mass media. AI will present a lot of different facts and gather a lot of different information. So the consumer discovery experience has completely changed when it comes to advice, when it comes to solution seeking. So we are seeing a shift. What we have seen for brands for creating or curating a great offline experience is that even though AI has really disrupted the way that we discover brand and the way that we live, the way that we shop, what doesn't change is that we are human beings. At the end of the day, we still want that real connection. So it actually forces a lot of consumers to seek those real, tangible experience offline. So brands that have, or retailers that have been able to identify this early on have really been able to capture the movement. So for instance, in the beauty industry, many of the successful retailers and in retailers are really going all in with experiences inside their stores, inside their retail space. And these experiences, yes, it is very labor intensive. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but it brings the consumers to their store and it builds long-term brand loyalty between the consumers and their retail brand. Whereas traditional um, traditional retailers such as Saks or Nordstrom, they're struggling because these department stores haven't really changed or haven't really adapted to the new consumption habits of the new generation. And that will become very difficult. What will not be replaceable moving forward is the consumer's online behavior. And they will continue to use AI to guide their decisions. And they will continue to use AI to help them to make the right decision on where to buy. And that is a new area where I think brands are racing to win, which is how can they influence the AI's recommendation?
Well, the thing is, it's very interesting that you mentioned those big department stores because, you know, those huge department stores are, legacy brands. I mean, their departments are all separate. Must be
Mhm.
very expensive. And also, when you shop online, you buy something and it says, "Oh, we recommend this as well." we recommend this. So how can you do that in a department store? It's very difficult, isn't it? Because everything's separate.
Yes.
So, and they're all competing against each other in the shop as well. So it's like, how do you, it's very difficult to do that in a bricks and mortar store. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. I think that a word of advice for these traditional brick and mortar retailers is leverage AI. It
Yeah.
takes one of the biggest, most challenging tasks for a lot of these retailers in terms of operation, and one of the biggest, heftiest line item on their balance sheet is these beauty advisors, is these physical people that they have hired. And the training takes on a lot of effort for the brands and for the retailers. But they should leverage AI. AI should be able to guide the consumers, and they should be able to guide the consumers through an experience that's very similar to online experience with recommendations. It's unbiased. Hey, check out this, and go to this. And the consumers are willing to believe AI more, and AI is ultimately more knowledgeable because they just naturally have more information. They're more knowledgeable. And the now AI assistants are way more human-like than actual humans. It's very hard to tell whether it's a real person or not. So they are able to make recommendations in a way that is that's not eliminating the human touch, which is what I think a lot of these companies or retailers are worried about, which is eliminating that human touch.
Yeah, that's what I think they're afraid of, isn't it? Well, that's why everybody, I can't say we all because I was not included in that. I was already working at home, but everybody went home to work.
Yeah.
And then when they were called back to the office, they were like, I don't want to go back to work. And they went kicking and screaming. So, but then they tried hybrid working. Now, when I speak to some people, they say, oh, now the offices want us back in full time. And I think it's just because they're just clinging to the old ways.
Yes.
Is that what you is that what you see in the marketing industry as well? People clinging to the old ways of marketing.
I think the industry is going through a generational shift. So so agencies or companies that have been managed by some of the industry leaders that have been in place for decades are now leaving. So those industry leaders are leaving. So it is going through it is going through generational shift. And I think we're going to see new generation of leaders coming in, and that will have a different management style compared to their predecessors. And hence why we're seeing a lot of mergers in my industry. So in the advertising industry, there's a lot of mergers that's happening. There's a lot of consolidation even within the group agencies. And what they're seeing is that by consolidating this, we did not need as this many brands before. We did not need this many people, especially with AI. So you see the news everywhere. You see McKinsey firing 15,000 people, but hiring 20,000 AI workers. And and clients are willing to pay for AI employees rather than a real human, because it is cheaper. And the AI employees are replacing some of those repetitive works. So yeah, we're seeing that change. And I think for industries that insist on man or operating in the traditional way, they're going to have a very hard time readjusting.
Hi, I just wanted to pop on here just to say thank you so much for being here, watching this video and supporting my channel. It is my honor to bring you these stories from these incredible women who are passionate about their lives and have alchemized their spiritual awakening journeys from service to self to service to others. If you would like to be part of my Passionista community, just grab a free copy of my workbook, which you'll find a link below. It's called Your Passionista Journey Starts Here. And start making those small changes to your life that you need right now. Thank you again for being here. Love you to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when all the new weekly episodes are live. Thanks again, Passionista. Much love and joy. Now let's get back to the interview. So why is staying smaller in a and specialized a competitive advantage right now in the world that's obsessed with mergers and
Yeah.
getting bigger?
I think one thing that is, so Helios is a independent agency, and we're part of WPI, which is the world's oldest independent agency network. And I think being independent means, I think the size of the firm is not indicative of your independence. There are some independent agencies or independent companies or brands that you cannot simply call them indie because they're big. They're really big. But staying independent means that it's a conscious management decision by not folding themselves into a larger money-backed sort of firms where the work and the people just becomes a line on the balance sheet or on the financial report. We that really takes away sort of the quality of work. And the reason why we stay independent, I'm speaking, on behalf of most independent agency owners, is that we want self-directed freedom, and we want to ensure that all the quality of our delivery is consistent. We don't want we want to invest in our client relationships. Hence why these independent agencies have the longest client relationships. They last decades. And it's because the clients value that as well. It's a human touch. It is absolutely genuine relationship.
Yeah.
We think on behalf of each other. It is partnership that's based on trust and mutual respect. So that is something that network agencies or network companies are unable to provide. They simply don't have the manpower, the time, or are allowed to have the time to think on behalf of the brand. And again, I think that goes back to my background is I used to work in these network agencies, and the fact that we all answer to CFO, not we all answer, we work for our finance department. We used to all work for our finance department, really took away of the vocational sense of work. And that causes high turnover, lack of happiness inside work. That lack of happiness at workplace is not replaceable by or not solvable by simply offering the staff avocado toast and tennis tables and cocktail hours. It's not something that you can
We
fix.
can't be
I
bought
think,
that easily.
no. But yeah,
And
I think that's why
yeah,
we remain independent.
and people buy from people. You're absolutely right. And when you've got a team of people, and you feel like you're just a number and you're not valued and no one's listening to you, just go to work and come home like a robot. It really, that's where you do get high turnover, and then you lose the trust of the consumer because every time they've got to do business with you, they're talking to somebody new.
Yeah,
So I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, specializing and staying independent is really important, especially now. It's strange, but in the era of technology, we're actually going back to more traditional styles where we're people to people oriented,
absolutely.
and
We're going
and I
to
like
we're
that.
seeing yes, we're seeing this everywhere, and we're seeing this in the consumer behavior. We're seeing this in the way that we conduct business. I think that the the two extremes will continue to exist, where we will have the extremely technologically advanced need, or there's a need for technological advancement versus we at the end of the day to balance that sort of lack of human touch. We need that real human connection. So I think we're going to continue to see that.
And also women in leadership. Can we talk about that? Because women
Yes.
control over 80% of consumer purchasing power,
Yes.
but we only hold about 29% of creative director roles. What's wrong with
Yes.
that, people?
Yes.
So how do you ensure that female voices are actually leading the direction, the creative direction at your agency?
It's so hard, isn't it? I think that that's been something that we have been talking to a lot of people about as a female executive in any industry. I think it's very difficult because we have traditional female roles that we need to perform that men typically don't have. We typically have roles in our family that depends that really pulls us away, such as having children and caring for our kids, where men typically don't have those liabilities. I don't want to call them liabilities, but those responsibilities.
Men have it easy, let's just say that, right?
Yes, yes, and
Or easier, easier.
yes, yes. And I think that having the right environment that promotes and promotes sort of a healthy working environment and opportunities, providing those opportunities to young females is very, very important. And to be very honest, I never had that when I first, for the first 10 years of my career, I've been in this, or 7 years of my career, and I've been in this industry for 20 something years. And I have, first 7 years of my career, I've never had that. It was just accepted that the leadership were all men. And yes, there were, multiple movement of gender equality, but I think a lot of it is very surfaced. So it's doing it for the purpose of doing it. And it's not really benefiting the women in the workforce because nothing was institutionally changing. It was, yes, we're going to promote a female and she is the token. She's the token person in the boardroom for diversity purposes, and we have to.
Sounds like
And I
Hollywood, right?
absolutely, yes,
That's the
it's
same thing, right?
yes. And in the US, and we just went through this entire woke movement, and I think it really does more harm to the minorities and to women than the benefits that it was supposed to drive because
Right.
it was very surfaced and nothing was institutionally changing. So that was something that I think I have identified very early on. So as a business owner, I for my firm at least, I have implemented rules and implemented opportunities and ways of managing, especially so management processes that allows young women opportunities otherwise they would not be able to have access to. And many of that is purely based on merit. So very statistically speaking, women work longer hours in any industry. We are more, we have, we also work harder than men. And yes, some of it is by force, but the result is that we work longer hours and we work harder. We're more dedicated to our work.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, we provide merit-driven opportunities to our staff. So we give them opportunities. We give them opportunities to learn from senior executives by having a very flat organization without instilling many layers between us. I think middle managers really kill the creativity. And we allow our staff to have access to industry leaders as well by participating in a lot of industry networks. We let them pick some of their mentors that they wanted to reach out to. We participate in our industry thought leadership programs, and we allow our staff that exposure. Many people, you can't be creative when you don't have imagination. And a lot of these young women have never been allowed to have imagination. So we allow them to have that. So we create a sort of a work environment that really cultivates creativity for an opportunity for our staff. And at the same time, we reward them. So we have a measured system in place that measures performance in a unbiased way. So
That's amazing,
that
isn't
that
it?
allows them
That's
to
amazing.
excel.
Yeah, because women, if you really? You want my opinion? You want me to be creative? What do you mean?
Yes.
It's very
Yes.
nice. So, in general, for young people, what signals leadership potential for you? What do you look for in young people, regardless of their resume? Like you said, it's not their resume, because anybody can write a resume. I totally agree, that's just BS. But what do you look for in that young person when they come to you?
Uh, Life experience.
Nice.
So I think that many great leaders, and I certainly hope that I aspire to be a great leader someday. And I think that many of them share a similar outlook, uh, and which is they look for they're a collector of people rather than a collector of things or deal relationships. And they're a collector of talents. So when we hire, and this is our hiring principle, when we hire, we don't hire for a position. We actually create a position for the talent. And we're small enough that we're able to do this. We're independent enough that we're able to do this. We want them to excel in areas, and we want to maximize their sort of advantages rather than their weaknesses. So their strengths rather than their weaknesses. We focus on identifying those strengths. And to be quite honest, as a for-profit business, it is really profitable to when you find the people and put them in positions that they are really good at. It's really profitable for the company rather than forcing them into something that, they may or may not be suitable for. So I think from the get-go, from hiring all the way to how we incentivize their growth, which is we implement a Google-like growth. So every 60 days, a staff will have the opportunity to do a 60-day review. And they will also have, they are at their own, they are their own director of their career growth. They can have CDEs at any moment, which is their career growth advancement reviews with the senior executives at any moment. We don't have set times scheduled
You don't have
for.
to wait till the end of the year,
You
right?
don't have to. And so
So
it really
you're completely breaking all of the old systems, aren't you? And that's great.
and this is really truly thanks to my business partner. So my co-founder Humphrey, who comes from Google. So he implemented a lot of those Google
Ah,
management styles, and that really encourages people to do their best. And it also acts as a filtering system. So if you're not self-motivated and you don't have a vocational sense of your work, this is not the place for you.
yeah, that's great. So your business partner, so he comes from Google, so that they're all about the open workspace, right?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, water. Um, so how does that balance work between the two of you? You've had all that experience with being innovative, and he's come from Google. So how does that balance together?
I have to say that I'm very lucky. I know my experience is not representative of a lot of other people's experience. I feel very blessed and very lucky that I was in China at the right time. And I also have found my co-founder and business partner and with the same goals at the right time. So we really truly complement each other. And he's excellent at operations. He's excellent at investment and financing. I'm very good with brands. I'm very good at identifying business opportunities. So we truly balance each other. So I wouldn't say that I'm more creative and he's more logical. I think we also balance each other an intensity level. So he's very intense, and I have learned to be less intense because through our 15 years of working together, we actually worked together in a different capacity prior to co-founding this business. And the reason why I went to him with this crazy idea of starting something here in the US and bringing the Asian expertise to American businesses and Western businesses, he never thought he never said my thoughts were crazy. And we had no money, no backing, no money. And he had a high paying job that he could easily vest at Google. And he was a highly paid executive at Google. And he said, why not? So why don't we do this?
Yeah,
What's
let's go
holding
break
us
some systems. Let's renovate the marketing industry, right?
or try to? So, and we didn't know how to do it. And I had this crazy idea, but we didn't know how to do it. And he's like, well, let me try. And so ever since then, that's been our attitude. So we're not too serious about processes. We are always changing. And, we are a company that believes in Kaizen, which is a Japanese word for always improving. So we're constantly improving ourselves, we're improving our company, and that's how we were able to grow the business with no relationships and truly no community when we first started in the US and to the size it is today.
Nice. So let me ask you then, what would advice would both of you give to a brand manager that's terrified of the current speed of the change in the industry?
I think it's hard for a brand manager at any executive level that's working in a large corporation
Mm,
because yes, the voices are unheard and it is very challenging. I think any brand manager, whether it is it's your own brand, you're the entrepreneur, or you are managing another brand, I think the biggest part is finding the right company for you. So most people know what is right and wrong. Everybody knows what is the right thing to do. Most people have fear of implementing or voicing out their opinions because of loss of their jobs, or they're fearful of public scrutiny, they're fearful of failure. And I think
mhm.
find the companies that encourage people to fail. And that is really that is really where I think those innovators, those people with good ideas that don't want to settle and compromise with their existing role will be able to flourish.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the brands that don't value and companies that don't value those qualities will unfortunately be left behind by the industry.
Yeah, don't be afraid to change, right? And find because there are companies exactly like yours that are, you know, looking for innovators and
Mhm.
imagineers and, the people that think outside the box. And we need that, the old ways, the old systems, they are dying out and they are being left behind, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, two final questions for you. So, for the woman who's listening right now, feels that she's at the crossroads, ready to ditch the status quo, find her own path like you did. What's the single most important piece of advice you would give her? I'm losing my voice again. For the single most important piece of advice you would give her. Thanks.
I think have no regrets. I think that's don't have any regrets. I have many regrets, and this is why I'm sharing this. I regret that I spent my entire 20s being fearful and being in my own shell. And that's my biggest regret. I did not step out and I was very fearful of judgments. So I think having no regret is really important. because the one thing that we can't reverse is time. And fail early, fail harder when you're younger. And you take all of those experiences are so valuable and you take them with you and you move on and you become a stronger, better person. You are the entrepreneur of your own life and you're the CEO of your own life. So how do you want to direct it?
Yeah, that's a great answer. I like that. And question two is just about you. Where can listeners follow your work? What's the best way for brand leaders to start a conversation with Helios worldwide?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on social media. And we love to work with brands of all sizes. We have our own consumer CPG fund where we are helping brands that's seed plus to Series A to grow with both financial capital as well as human capital. So we put our money where our mouth is, and we bring in the experts and we help those brands to grow by complementing those leaders because they are most entrepreneurs are experts in their own product, but marketing is something that is very foreign to them. So we bring access for those leaders. We give them access to industry veterans where otherwise they don't have the budget for. So they can follow me there. And also on social media where we're constantly participating in a lot of industry events and conferences. And we love to talk to people and share experiences. But yeah, so that's where they can find me.
Fantastic. A million thanks to Yuki for joining me today. Thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you find it inspiring and empowering. Of course you did. It's always inspiring and empowering. To find out more about either Yuki or myself, you can find all the details in the show notes. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow, another powerful Passionista conversation. I hope that this guest's journey, experience, and story has inspired something deep within you. Remember, it's about following the joy moments in your life. It's a beautiful dance with the universe. If you would like to dive deeper into your joy journey with me, you will find all the links below this video, including a link to a free workbook that will help you to start your joy journey. And until next time, Passionista, I'll say goodbye. Much love and joy.